Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about Porsche in Gran Turismo. And we're going to be talking about, were they a problem child or were they a really good manufacturer for polyphony? So let's have a look. Okay, so going back to the very first Gran Turismo. So while many fans may think of this as being the beginning of the series, for polyphony it was more a first serious attempt at creating a racing game. Those of you that know Gran Turismo trivia well know that this wasn't Kaz and Polyphony's first racing game. So the aim here with Gran Turismo is just to kind of see what happens. They were starting from scratch, so the absence of a manufacturer or two didn't really matter too much. But Polyphony did manage to secure the main manufacturer from Japan, some of these like Toyota, Honda, Mazda, and these manufacturers that Polyphony still has a good relationship with today. They had a decent selection from the US with Dodge and Chevrolet. Unfortunately lacking in UK and Europe with just Aston Martin and TBR. Not great, but it didn't really matter. GT1 wasn't meant to be perfect, but kind of a stepping stone, and just like I said, a testing game to ultimately pave the way for what would be the real driving simulator. It's moving on to Gran Turismo 2, so this is when Polyphony kind of found their steps and got to work actually creating the perfect Gran Turismo. So the car count increased significantly from 150 to 650, that's almost over 500 increase in cars. The arcade-like physics were replaced with a kind of real-life version, and a proper campaign was introduced. However, there were some licensing issues with a lot of the main manufacturers. For example, Porsche, Lamborghini and Ferrari, some heavy hitters there. But there was now so many alternative and new things to do that it didn't really matter too much. But it did show that Gran Turismo was starting to get serious. So now we'll enter the PS2 era, and this is where games start to look a bit more realistic, and the racing genre was no exception. Although Gran Turismo 3 was somewhat rushed, it was just a taste of what the PS2 was capable of. And because of this, a lot of what was in Gran Turismo 2 was unfortunately removed. The car count went back to GT1 levels, around 150, and the campaign wasn't great, particularly professionally, but that's another video in itself. However, they did start to find a way of dealing with the licensing issues mentioned earlier, preventing them from adding main manufacturers. So they added Pagani as an alternative to Ferrari, obviously not a complete replacement, but just something else for the players to do. And technically they did add Lamborghini, the Diablo GT3, I'm sure you probably know about this one. So it's an AI car, but I don't think you can get it unless you win a specific race under like a certain area, regional version of the game. I think that's a bit complicated, that one. But they still had to deal with Porsche, so what do you think they did? Well, they added Roof. So for those of you who don't know, Roof, or Rough, or however it's pronounced, are a tuning company. They're a Porsche tuning company that started selling their own complete models. So they are quite cool, and I've linked some videos for you to learn a bit more about them if you don't already know. So Polyphony went with the 3400S, which is a normal Porsche Boxster but with a 911 engine fitted in it with over 300 horsepower. The Roof RGT is a slightly tuned 996, the latest 911 variant at the time, nothing too special with that one. But my favourite, the CTR2, which is a 993 911 but with two turbos, and in all fairness this car was very fast, getting around 215 miles an hour. So quite a decent selection of roofs there, but still no actual Porsches. Well, actually there was one. See, in the files for the game there was a 996 911 that was supposed to be added. It can be modded in, it's not a complete car and it's certainly not able to be used in the game. I've heard things like this is just Kaz wanting to drive his own current car at the time, but obviously I'm not sure about that one. But now at this point in time, 2005, things were starting to get interesting. See, there was now competition in the racing genre, and before there were kind of, lots of games, but now there are lots of games all claiming to be the real driving simulator. Project Gotham Racing 1, 2 and 3 had all been released at this point, as well as the original Forza Motorsport. I can talk about these games separately in another video, but I just want to quickly show you the issue here. See, Project Gotham Racing 3, which is the latest one, had a wide selection of Ferraris and Lamborghinis. Unfortunately, they couldn't get the Porsche license, so they went with implementing Roof. Now Forza Motorsport were able to get Ferrari and Porsche but was unable to get Lamborghini. But Polyphony had a big problem. Their game was going to be the latest release of the three, and they couldn't get any of the three licenses. So what did they do this time? Well, there wasn't really much they could do other than just simply adding more roofs, I guess. So they added the Roof BTR and the now famous Yellowbird, capable of 217 miles an hour. Car lovers, these are some good cars, but to the average player, these two cars alone weren't enough to make up for the lack of Ferrari, Lamborghini and especially Porsche. But because the game was so good overall, people didn't really mind. So moving on to the PS3 era, after the Gran Turismo 5 prologue was released in 2008, in 2010 Polyphony did find some success with Gran Turismo 5. Sales were record high and Polyphony managed to acquire both the Ferrari and Lamborghini license. And with what was a really well made game, to be fair, and very advanced, they propelled themselves back to the top of the list of the best racing game, overtaking the competition once again. There was now an elephant in the room in the form of Porsche once again. So at this point Porsche had been in other games for nearly a decade now, but still not in Gran Turismo. So that brings up the question of why weren't they in Gran Turismo? Well, there are kind of three main reasons. So the first main reason,
EA Sports,
of course. So EA had exclusive rights to the Porsche manufacturer, meaning that Polyphony Digital were not allowed to include any Porsche variants, and they are exclusive to Forza, basically, or any other EA racing game. On top of this, Polyphony may not have been able to obtain the Porsche license. I very much doubt this had been the case, but it's possible. There was also rumours that Porsche were not happy with the damage model in Gran Turismo. Not sure how true this one is either, as Polyphony never mentioned any of these three themselves, and in fact they never even gave a reason for it. And for the Gran Turismo 6 release, Polyphony just had to roll with it and just accept that, there may be some angry fans. But at this point there wasn't really much they could do. And that brings us to the PS4 and PS5 era. So in 2017 Polyphony said this. So yes, Porsche was officially coming to Gran Turismo. After 20 years of asking, it was going to be finally added, and it was probably the most anticipated manufacture in GT history. However, once it was added, the fans were still not happy, but in my opinion it was justified. After 20 years they received just 4 cars. Yes, just 4. So we got the 911 GT3, the 911 GT3 RS, the newest variant at the time, the Porsche Cayman Group 4, and the Porsche 919. So some good cars, but lacking significantly in terms of variety. Now, as you know, GT Sport wasn't a very good game, to be honest, and the lack of Porsches on top of the lack of content left many fans feeling very much underwhelmed. But Polyphony did continue to design and implement more Porsches into GT Sport until its end in 2020, when we finished with a more healthy selection of cars. 1959 Porsche Carrera, a further 4 different types of 911s. The 962 was added on top of the Taken. We got a much bigger variety in terms of Porsches, some race cars, and even some electric cars towards the end. But Gran Turismo 7 looked even more promising for Porsche. So even at launch we had a couple of older Porsches that were added to the Legend dealer, a couple of retro 911s in the used car dealership, the 917 Living Legend, a load of Porsche Vision GTs, but in my opinion the best car added at launch was the Carrera GT. Now I want to pause here to simply talk about my love for the Carrera GT. Now I think racing games, what they're good at is they let you drive almost unachievable cars in real life in a game. I think it's a Porsche 911. Obviously it's nice to drive and everything, but you can simply get one in real life. The chance of you ever driving a Carrera GT in real life are so low. This thing obviously had, an F1 engine revving really, really high. One of the best sounding engines of all time. Really exclusive, really expensive, all that stuff. And to be able to get it in Gran Turismo was, a very nice opportunity to say the least. I think, it's one of my favourite cars in the game for sure. So going back to the story, then update after update that was added, we got. So then they continued on the monthly update kind of basis thing. Then update after update, we got banger after banger, I'm happy to say. So just 4 months after the release of the game, we got another highly anticipated car, the 918. Now this is another really exclusive car, really fast, one of the fastest cars in the game stock. Insane speed, really good cornering ability, just an awesome car. And it's actually good because it completes the kind of holy trinity with the LaFerrari and the McLaren P1. So yeah, another really highly anticipated car there. Just a month later we then got the Cayman GT4, but the road variant. Now, while it may not be as exclusive as the 918, it's a lot cheaper, a lot more affordable for the average player. And still a really nice car, really competitive, you know, good tuning ability I guess. Stripped back was still a very fun car. Then just 1 month later we got the Porsche Vision GT Spider. And while maybe not as good as the other two Porsches, it's still quite a good car nonetheless. So 3 updates, 3 months, 3 different Porsches. Things were going really well. And then in March 2023, a year after the release, we got another highly anticipated car, the 959. This was the world's most expensive, I think the fastest, and the world's most advanced supercar at its time. Really nice car to have in the game. And by this point, we did have quite a lot of Porsches, so it almost was a complete brand. But Polyphony didn't stop there and had to make up for all the lost time. And that's a good job because in November 2023 we got not only the best update ever, but some of the best cars that have ever been added. And this update was stacked, but the standouts for me are the Lexus LFA and the Porsche 911 GT3 RS. And in my opinion, the 911 GT3 RS is the best car that has been added to Gran Turismo 7. Now I spoke about this car a lot in the Cars You Need to Own video. I really do like this car. But yeah, really good handling. It's probably the most practical car you could buy. But what's funny after this is that Polyphony started adding more roof models to the game. Good to see that Polyphony still cares about them, because we may as well have both, I guess. Then the Mission X and the 2020 911 came both in one update. Now these are both really good cars, and now we kind of have the complete Porsche lineup. So we even have a race series specifically designed for Porsche cars now in Gran Turismo 7. So I think it's important now that we've got Porsche as a complete brand, we look back at the Porsches we have now and think that maybe they were worth the wait actually. Thank you for watching, I'll see you in the next one.